Hello, I'm Greg Sadler, and I'd like to tell you about a class that I have currently enrolling that if you're into Stoic philosophy or if you're curious about it, you don't want to miss. It is called Stoicism on the Cardinal Virtues, Wisdom, Justice, Courage, Temperance, and it is an online synchronous class. That means that we meet every week for 90-minute class sessions in which I will be going over the material, doing a deep dive into the Stoic conception of virtue and the virtues with all of the participants, and they get to ask questions, bring up problems, consider examples, and then we do it each week like that, beginning on February 24th, which is a Saturday. All of the class sessions are going to be at 10 a.m. Central Time, so you might want to check what that is in your time zone. And we will be meeting regularly, going through a curriculum. And you might say, well, I don't know if this class is for me. I don't know that much about Stoicism. I'm just at a beginner level. This class is designed to take you from whatever level that you're at, including intermediate level, and provide you with a solid understanding of what the Stoics mean by virtue and the cardinal virtues, what it involves, what it requires, what it produces for us. So let me give you a rundown of the curriculum, and then I'll tell you about how you can join us for these class sessions. The very first week, we're going to be doing, an introduction to the ideas. And I have, the class texts picked out. They're almost all easy to get your hands on for free online, although you can also get your own copies of them, which is not a bad idea. And we're going to be looking at bits and pieces of what the Stoics actually had to say about the nature of virtue, why virtue is necessary and perhaps even sufficient for happiness, how the Stoics are a bit different than other virtue ethics traditions, and why there's 4 virtues in particular, what we call the cardinal virtues, that they identify as being the ones you need to focus on. And then the next 4 weeks, so week 2 through 5, we'll be doing deep dives into Stoic literature about each of these virtues. We'll begin with wisdom, or practical wisdom, prudence, which is absolutely central for Stoicism. We'll be looking at not only what Seneca and Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius and also Musonius Rufus have to say, but at what some of the other people who tell us about Stoicism, Cicero, Arius Didymus, Diogenes Laertes, have to say. And I'll be pulling all these texts together for you, providing you with handouts so you can walk your way through them and study them on your own and make sense of them. So we'll be looking at wisdom, which is absolutely central. Then week 3 is justice. And this addresses one of the questions that people often ask. Well, why those 4 virtues? Where's kindness in it? For the Stoics, kindness is about half of the virtue of justice. Kindness, benevolence, generosity, those are all part of our social nature. So we'll be looking at what the Stoics have to say about that. Courage, another really important virtue we'll be looking at in week 4. And courage encompasses way more for the Stoics than just mastering fear or even other emotions, including anger. It encompasses things like magnanimity, rising above the problems and challenges that you're faced with, perseverance, industriousness. These things all fall under courage, and we'll talk about how and why. And then finally, in week 5, we finish with the 4th cardinal virtue, temperance, which is not just about self-control when it comes to eating or drinking or all sorts of other pleasures that we happen to have in our lives. It also includes a sense of decorum, of proportionality, and we'll be looking at how this works for the Stoics as well. And then in week 6, we're going to look at some of the criticisms that got made of the Stoics for their very hardcore viewpoint on justice, which, for example, said, listen, you're either virtuous or you're vicious, and there's nothing in between. Do the Stoics really believe that? Is this a position that we could work with, we could hold? Is it progress possible? So we'll be looking at some of the criticisms of the Stoics about the cardinal virtues and virtue itself, and we'll be looking at Stoic responses to those very problems, challenges, criticisms. So all told, this is an intensive class. If you ever wanted to understand this idea of virtue being the only good, well, what does that actually mean, or what do each of these virtues require? You don't want to miss this class. You can sign up by clicking the link below in the video description, which will take you to the page. We already have people enrolling, and we're going to begin the class soon. If you happen to be a little bit behind in signing up and the class has already started, you can still do that because each of the class sessions is video recorded and stored as a class resource within the class site. And you might be wondering, well, what if I can't get all of this done in those 6 weeks? If you sign up for this class, you get lifetime access to the class. You can go back to it as many times as you want. As a matter of fact, people do that with quite a few of my classes. They work through them, then they let it lay fallow for a while, they come back to it, they learn even more. So this is a really wonderful opportunity. If you've ever wanted to understand this absolutely central concept of Stoicism, cultivating the virtues, orienting your life in accordance with them, well, you got to understand what the virtues are then, and that requires piecing together a lot of discussions from various Stoic texts. I've been working on this sort of thing for about a decade. So you can benefit by signing up for this, coming along with me, an expert guide in Stoicism in general, Stoic philosophy, and particularly this matter of the cardinal virtues, what each of them are, what their sub-virtues are, what they look like, and what the Stoics have to say about them. So I hope that you'll consider joining me on this journey, and I look forward to starting the class with those of you who enroll.